What's up, Twitch and YouTube? It's Murphy D55 coming to you with a one-on-one episode of The Northern with my guy KingKov. We are less than 24 hours away from NFL playoff football, which we've been waiting for the whole year. I'm excited about it. I know Kov's excited about it. We're going to run through all of the matchups that are happening this weekend, give our takes, our hot takes, our cold takes on them, and see who's going to come out on top here. We'll make some predictions and hear what Kov has to say. But, Kov's been on ATG. He has the record for the most appearances ever on the Northern. He's not letting anybody else take that. But first of all, Kov, appreciate you coming on the stream again, man, and being part of the podcast.
Absolutely, man. The second I got that text from you, I'm like, bro, it was immediate. I'm like, if there's, a thing with work or with the kid or something, I'm like, I will make it work, man. Happy to be here. Let's have some fun.
W, man. You know what they call that? The kids call that on site. It's on site. When Murphy sends the text, it's on site. I don't know. I listen to only like Drake. That's the only modern artist I know from the last 10 years. But yeah, it's on site. We're doing it, guys. It happened. We got Kov here locked up and ready to go. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the actual matchups this week, and I didn't put up a graphic for this one, but I was just thinking, there's a couple teams that aren't playing this weekend that are in the playoffs. Right. We got the Kansas City Chiefs getting the bye in the AFC, and we got the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC East rivals for your Giants, getting the bye in the NFC. Going off of what we've seen this season so far, do you think that that's the projected Super Bowl matchup? Do you think that's who most people think are going to end up in the Super Bowl, the two teams on a bye?
Yeah, as of right now, with how it's gone, the AFC kind of got dicey with that situation, and thankfully Hamlin came through, and it seems like everything's going well over there. So that's obviously great to hear. Sure. But there's two teams that aren't the one seed that I think are like you could definitely see that like creep up, and that's the Bills and the Niners. Yeah. So the one seeds, the fact that it goes through, the fact that you have to go to Philly to win, I think is like the real key. And Kansas City has hosted the last 4 AFC Championship games, so they have experience. So you're either going to a grimy place in Philly or you're going to a place that has experience. So it could very well end up being one seed versus one seed.
Absolutely. And I don't even know if do you know if KC still plays in Arrowhead, or do they have a new stadium down there? I know Arrowhead used to be.
Yeah, for sure, still in Arrowhead. But if the Bills end up making it and playing the Chiefs in the championship game, then they're playing at an alternate site. I'm not sure exactly where.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting too, and we'll see if it does indeed get to that point. But I always remember like Arrowhead being one of the loudest stadiums, even back in the day before they had this kind of dynasty that they have right now with Mahomes. Absolutely. I call it a dynasty because I think he's going to be good for the next 10 years, if not more than that. He just seems like such a special quarterback. It's interesting, too, like for the Chiefs, their route to winning the number one seed, they had what I thought was going to be the most stacked division in football. I thought that all three wild cards were going to come out of that division.
Absolutely.
I thought the Raiders, they got Devontae Adams. I thought, Russell Wilson, let Russ cook. I thought it was going to be like a division with 4 teams with winning records, but instead, the division that the Eagles came out of, which was possibly the worst division in football, ends up being 3 playoff teams.
It's funny, too, because, I had a hot take at the beginning of the season. Now is an absolute freezing cold take. And I, at the beginning of the season, I was like, yo, watch the Chiefs end up finish last in their division. I'm like, wow, that was so off, dude.
Freezing cold takes, man.
Off to a hell of a start with a freezing cold take.
Yeah, but let's take a look, at the Chiefs first. So, obviously losing Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. And Tyreek had a great season, too. Let's not say that Tyreek has fallen off. He played great with Tua and with, the other backup quarterbacks that came in. I don't know if he ended up finishing second in the league in yards behind Jefferson, but he was over 100 yards a game. Great season for him.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jettas were like neck and neck all year.
For sure. And it's kind of crazy because Mahomes was able, and I do think he's such a special player. He was able to, with less weapons than he had last year, make just as much happen as he always does. Were you surprised at all seeing them being, I think, the only 14-win team in the league, right?
Yeah, it's just what I think with them is it's so much their scheme. They do so much trickery, and they just do more just stuff you don't typically see every Sunday. And I think and Travis Kelce and the Travis Kelce Mahomes combo is just they actually Kelce hasn't scored a touchdown in a few weeks, so I expect him to go crazy in the playoffs. But that's what Mahomes does, man. He got Juju. He's got guys. Pacheco. He's been playing good. He just makes the guys around him better. And they do these weird shovel plays. I don't know if you saw against the Raiders last week. They did this ring around the rosy.
I saw that.
They just do unconventional things that like just can confuse, defenses and coaches. But I'm just more surprised that their defense has been able to keep them in games to where Mahomes, does his thing and, doesn't have to overdo it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, absolutely, man. And, he does, like you said, the shovel passes, too. It takes a special type of quarterback to make the throws that he makes. Like, you'll see him making throws where he's almost horizontal to the ground. He still manages to have enough arm strength to get a throw off. When he doesn't even have a foot on the ground in some cases, you'll see him, kind of making those throws that, like, only guys like, Aaron Rodgers in his prime, the little shovel pass. It's like the confidence it takes to throw a ball in a motion that's completely foreign to most is kind of wild. But, man, he's a killer. I mean, the one thing I would say, if you had to point out a weakness on the Chiefs team, and, I haven't admittedly watched too much Chiefs football this year. I've been mostly locked in on the NFC. I know last year, or in the last Super Bowl appearance that they made, it was the offensive line that was kind of just letting him get massacred and hit, and he never really got a chance to kind of sit back in the pocket and make things work. What would you say is the biggest, like, maybe red flag or thing that you'd be worried about if you're a Chiefs fan?
Honestly, just health. Like, as long as the guys that go on the field just stay healthy, because all it takes is like some fluke. That's why, like, as an Eagles fan, I'd be a little concerned with Jalen not being 100%. Because the Eagle, like, as a Giants fan, it's so frustrating watching the Eagles because they'll literally, like, they'll just do a QB draw and Jalen Hurts is gone. Like, you know what I mean? They'll go 5 wide, just do a QB draw and he's gone. But with the Chiefs, man, they're just so talented. Like I said, they're experienced. As long as they stay healthy, I can't sense too many weaknesses other than, like, like I said, their defense. Like, they got a stout D-line still. The secondary, it might be their biggest flaw, but they still get the job done. So
for sure, man, and they're definitely, I think, the consensus like favorite to win the AFC every single year, as long as Mahomes is doing his thing and the team is able to keep there. Exactly. Even as long as they're able to keep their core and add in complementary pieces each year, like, because obviously you're not going to be able to pay everybody. Right. I think they could be kind of like a Patriots-esque type dynasty. Yeah, it's like, I could see 20 straight playoff appearances from this group, I swear.
Like, you got this guy Mahomes, I think it was against Denver a few weeks ago, where he literally, dude, he's like his whole side of his face is facing like the sideline, and he does this like little toss shovel pass. Like, I don't know how he even pulls it off, man. Like, he just does the craziest stuff, and he just keeps plays alive, and it's just it's crazy. It really is crazy.
It's like the rest of the league's playing like checkers. He's playing like 3D chess. He's seeing different dimensions that we don't see as humans, But
absolutely,
going over to the other side, the other team coming out of your division, who you're probably pretty familiar with because you had to play them twice this year, the Philadelphia Eagles, and feel free to unload on them if you think that they're frauds. But I can speak to my experience. We played them week 2, so we beat our division rivals, the Packers. That felt awesome. The Vikings, that was probably our one of maybe only 2 really actual convincing wins for the Vikings this entire season. And then we go in, I think it was on Monday Night Football and in prime time and get absolutely flooded. It was terrible. So from what I've seen, really good team. That was early on. What have you seen from the Eagles this year? Do you think they're legit contenders?
Yeah, they're content. I mean, like, you got Giants fans on Twitter, Facebook, all these. They want to call them frauds and all this stuff, but they're down. Their offense is on it. Same thing, just like the Chiefs, man. If they're healthy, what Jalen's be able to do, just rushing the ball, and then you got guys like AJ Brown. You got Devonta. Like, they're just high power. They're gonna run it down your throat, and they'll throw deep too. And and my biggest point, also, like I said earlier, is you have to go to Philly and beat them in the biggest games of the year, and it's just like that is really, really tough. Like, that 2 games and they're off to the soup. So, like, it's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be the Niners.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, like, you know what I mean.
And we'll get into it too. We're gonna go chronologically through these games, but I think both of us kind of have a feeling with our teams that we are frauds to some degree, that we're not maybe as good as our record shows.
Absolutely.
So the good news is that at least one fraud is going to advance to the second round. So I mean that's a W. Whether it's your fraud or my fraud, one of us is making it there. So I'm going to be rooting for whoever wins the our game.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
But let's get started here, guy, with the first actual matchup that's going to be played this week. So we got the Seahawks and the Niners. That's going to be the afternoon game tomorrow. So that's a Saturday game here. Crazy stuff with the Seahawks sneaking in, because I know, I have a lot of Packers fans on Twitch. I have a lot of friends personally that are Detroit Lions fans, like out in Western Ontario, living in Windsor, like right across the border from Detroit. And we kind of assumed, I think everybody assumed that it was either going to be Detroit or the Packers advancing in that final wildcard spot. But then out of nowhere, they kind of committed like a double suicide type deal where they both got eliminated on the same day. So what do you think about this matchup here? What do you expect to see between the Seahawks and the Niners?
Yeah, I mean, like I think like the consensus around like Twitter and just social media that it's going to be a slaughter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm not sure exactly what the spread is as of right now.
Yeah.
But it's a divisional game. Divisional games are always going to be nasty, whether it's in the regular season or the postseason. I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than people think it's going to be. I think Gino's got something to prove. He's had a great year. Super happy for the guy. Probably comeback player of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's going to be like a division game in the first half, but the Niners just have so much offensive firepower. And then when you mix the best defense in the league, their biggest flaw is Mr. Irrelevant gonna be Mr. Irrelevant. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And that's where you maybe think like, in a divisional game, even though the Niners have beat them twice already, you just don't know. Like division games are just nasty, man, especially in a division like the NFC West where you have, the Seahawks sneaking in. And like you were saying, it's kind of weird how they kind of like the Seahawks were hoping the Lions won, but the Lions were hoping the Seahawks lose. So it's kind of crazy how that all played out. And it's crazy that the Packers almost snuck in, and so that's a whole other situation.
Absolutely,
but I think it's going to be traditional grimy divisional game in January. I think the Niners win. I got them. I'll take them by like 10. I think it's going to be nasty. Some people think they're going to blow them out of the water, and they very well could. Well, it's in San Fran. Like you got McCaffrey, you got Debo, you got Kittle. These guys are hungry. They haven't been there in a couple of years, so they're ready to go, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Jay Luke's coming in saying it's 9.5 is the line right now on FanDuel. So your prediction of a 10-point win is right on the money. You might be a bookie in another life. Who knows? I know you do have some experience with sports betting.
What, man, last week I was getting crazy lucky, man. I was just hitting bet after bet. Like so, sometimes when you put in a guess, sometimes it goes your way.
Yeah, that's KingKov, the human algorithm over here, boys. Appreciate everybody coming into the chat. We got some legends hanging out in here. Great to see you guys. So my take on this game too. Again, Seahawks. Geno Smith, really cool story because he came into the league and high hopes for him, and he fizzled for about 6 or 7 years where I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't even know he was still in the league. When I saw he was
starting... on the Giants for a little bit too.
He was like, I remember Jets, Giants, and then I feel like he probably had some other stops along the way because I don't imagine him, sticking with a team for too long because, he never played. He never got an opportunity after that initial, rookie part of his career. But really cool story for him. I think... One of the cool things about the NFL, too, is that you can have these people who become heroes just from, a moment or a season. Guys who might not, in the grand scheme, be Hall of Famers, but they can still have a role to play. So, maybe...
Things like long runs.
For sure. For sure. And I think a cool thing about the Seahawks, too, is the nature of that trade. When it looked like they were mortgaging their future to build with a young squad, they end up getting a journeyman who comes in, does the job. They end up sneaking into the playoffs. And meanwhile... Yeah. The Broncos, on the other side of things, have a horrendous season where it looks like, man, they just gave up how many picks for who? I mean, the Seahawks have got to feel good because they have a whole lot of draft capital coming in future years. I don't think Geno's going to be the long-term solution there, but really cool to have other teams' good draft picks and then also be in the playoffs. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Absolutely, and Pete Carroll, was definitely on the hot seat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like a real dicey situation in Seattle. And don't get me wrong, Seattle's got weapon. They got DK, Kenneth Walker had a crazy season. Yeah. So they can score. I think that's what I mean. I feel like it's gonna be a grimy game. I think Seattle will hang with them. But I think once the second half, the Niners are just going to burn them out. That defense, and that's the thing, the defensive line is going to get there. So absolutely, man. And that's another thing I want to talk about with the Niners is the depth that they have on the line, and then Nick Bosa potentially being Defensive Player of the Year this year. And also I think Nick Bosa could be a candidate for Comeback Player of the Year because didn't he miss most of last year with either an ACL or something? So, I mean, just that whole family, the Bosa family, it's kind of like the Watt family, just the crazy genetics. Right, super talented,
yeah, man. And Nick Bosa coming in and arguably being better than Joey Bosa right off the rip. He came in as a rookie and he was dominant. But the other thing too with the Niners, like low key being able to pick up CMC partway through the season is a huge addition. They've always had a slew of running backs, but now having one of the most valuable running. I thought it was great when they had Jimmy Garoppolo as quarterback because it's you get a pass catching running back for your checkdowns. And the other thing that kind of stands out to me with the Niners too, and I think it's an amazing problem to have, is that the Niners always seem to have a QB controversy that comes up, and I think it's a good problem to have because they actually have three capable quarterbacks on their roster. None of whom I mean, Trey Lance, I think, has potential superstar status, so I was really sad to see him get injured right in the beginning of the season. I thought he was going to have a breakout year this year. Jimmy Garoppolo, I've always been a huge hater, but honestly, he's got like a, 666 win percentage? Like, he literally has won a ton of games, and he's probably the best backup quarterback in the league as far as if you want to have somebody step in for a long period of time. And then, sturdy Brock Purdy coming out of nowhere, Mr. Irrelevant, actually, doing a decent job and winning a bunch of games.
Yeah.
The quarterback, room that they have there is kind of insane. Even though none of those guys are a top 5 quarterback in the league.
It's got to be crazy for him too, because they beat the Bucs like towards the end of the season, like they blew him out, and it's like crazy to like he's the last pick in the draft and he's going up and tapping up Tom Brady after he's beating him. So that's a crazy story. And also they're the team with the longest win streak going into the playoffs. They're on a 10-game win streak, a 10-game burner going into the playoffs, and they're gonna ride that momentum. That's why, like, I guess I see why people think it's gonna be a slaughter. Definitely could be, but like I said, division games, they're nasty.
Yeah, for sure. And they really did hit their stride, like you said. Like, this best case scenario. It's kind of like the Bengals last year, like getting red hot right into the playoffs and continuing all the way to the final game. But it's funny because the Niners got off to a kind of a not a terrible, like, insurmountable start, but they got off to kind of a mediocre, rough start in what was like actually probably one of the weakest divisions in football, like having to play the Seahawks, who had just mortgaged their future, and having to play against the Rams, who had a horrendous, like, kind of Super Bowl hangover this year.
So many injuries. They had so many injuries too, man. The Rams they got depleted like early too.
Absolutely, man. One of the issues with having like a veteran team and bringing them back for another round is that you're not going to be able to guarantee that those aging players can stay healthy, for sure. But I think it's interesting. Like, one thing, this is a storyline that I want to see as a Vikings fan. Because I think Kirk has had a great year for the Vikings. He's done awesome stuff. He's really been statistically, he's been really good for us for 4 years. Like, he's been top 15, top 12 probably quarterback in the league. Right. But I'm hoping that Brock Purdy, if neither of our teams makes it, I'm hoping that Brock Purdy has a crazy Super Bowl run, shades of like a young Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady, wins a Super Bowl. And then Trey Lance becomes expendable to them because they've invested so much in getting him, and that's somebody that I would love to see on the Vikings. A young, potential-ridden like quarterback. Like, I would love to see, because they can't keep all 3 of them next year. There's just no way.
Right, yeah, which is actually good. Then they can deal out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I kind of need them to win too, because like I'm in a spot as a Giants fan where either 2 of my divisional rivals could win the NFC, or Tom Brady wins the NFC. Yeah. So we're probably not going to win the NFC. So if it is anybody, let it be them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we're both on the same page here. I think we're both thinking 49ers is the sure bet. This is probably as close to a lock as I would say in the first round.
I think if you had to give me a game to lock in, I don't know the Bill. I don't. We'll get to the Bills Dolphins, but I don't.
Yeah, we will, and we'll talk about the quarterback. We got like 2 starting quarterbacks that are not playing in round 1, so it's kind of it's always unfortunate to see that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's hop into the next matchup here. So this is also a Saturday game. We got the Chargers versus the Jags, and the Jags again be the last team to sneak in that final wildcard spot. The Chargers coming out of the same division, as the Chiefs. So at least one of my predictions came through. One wild card came out of the AFC West. But what are your thoughts on these 2 teams? What do you think of both their seasons and what you expect to see in this matchup?
I think this is like the most unique game of the week. Like, we got a couple, we got the divisional games, and you got probably the heavy favors. But like this game, it's like I feel like nobody knows where this game is going. You know what I mean? Jacksonville barely sneaks in with a defensive touchdown against the Titans to win the division. And they got the Chargers, who have been, up and down. This is definitely, I think, like the most interesting game of the week outside of our game, of course.
For sure.
Because I mean the Jags were what 3-7 or right 3-7 and just not
typical Jags season. It looked like
absolutely. But it's weird because it's like I really want to lean on Jacksonville because they're home, and Duval Country is like insane. I didn't realize it because for the longest time I was like, do they even have fans? Yeah. And then when watching them last week on Saturday night or Sunday night, whatever day it was, just like that place was rocking. You know what I mean?
Man.
So that's kind of a place you probably don't expect to have to go, and those fans are crazy. I just think if I have to pick one, I love Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's definitely probably, if he's not top 5, he's borderline top 5, and I think he's just gonna make things happen. And where Jacksonville is it's so weird, man. It's such a weird game. It's like it could be an overtime game-winning, field goal type of game. But if I have to pick one, I'm just gonna go with the talent of Herbert over anything, because this is a nasty one, man. This is a nasty game.
For sure, it really is. Like, this is probably like the most of a toss-up. We went from having the easiest lock to potentially the biggest toss-up between two teams. And it's funny that you mentioned it, because the Jags having like that home field advantage, and it's something I wouldn't have thought of either. But it's like the blue-collar town. It's not Miami. It's not like the sexy tourist destination. It's like right in the middle of like Hurricane Alley. Like, these guys are bringing the lunch pail to work. They've got to they got to pay their taxes, and then they go in there and they shout at the opposing team. And I think. The Jags, the last time we saw in the playoffs was like, a very different team. Like, it still had Jalen Ramsey on the squad. They played against the Steelers, played really well in the playoffs. Like, I was so surprised. But then it kind of all broke down real quick. Then, even back then they didn't have, that long-term quarterback solution. But then they go out and get a first overall pick Trevor Lawrence, who's like one of the hottest. Like, as far as I'm getting into card collecting, people are investing their life fortune in this guy, thinking that he's going to be the next big thing.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned 3-7 start, or like a terrible start. Like, they've got to be almost as hot as the Niners are at this point. Like, going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're the team with the second longest winning streak, I believe, going into the playoffs. So it's definitely it's so interesting. Like, if you're gonna gamble on Wildcard Weekend, I would stay away from this game, bro. Because actually, if anyone knows, I think someone said 2.5 Chargers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's you know what I mean. Like, you could go either way. You could go literally either way. There's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. It's in Duval country. They got Chargers got maybe the better quarterback. Right, in that sense. Yeah. Mike Williams has been an absolute dog. So I mean, I like I said, if you had to force me to take a pick, I got to go with Justin Herbert. But we'll see. It's I think this is gonna be like one of those like. It's either gonna be. I feel like it's either gonna be like stupid high scoring, or it's gonna be like a 13-7, type of game.
And come down to a game-winning drive in the fourth. Like, I can definitely see it.
Whoever wins is gonna earn it. That's for sure.
Definitely. And I think with the Chargers, I think I've heard word today. People were saying that maybe Mike Williams might not be playing in the game. He might have gotten injured. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'm gonna have to check the injury report tomorrow. But I heard he got dinged up in the last week of the season when they decided to play their starters. So that could change things too. Herbert, like, again, super young quarterback, really exciting, and I think he was at the beginning of the year. I kind of thought that he'd be like in that top 5 conversation by the end of the year, just because of his youth and what he had shown early on. But I think overall, kind of an underwhelming year for the Chargers. I think they were expecting to take that leap to be like right up there with the Bills and the Chiefs, and even potentially contend for the division title. Came up a little bit short, but obviously, still a success making the playoffs with this young roster they have. But they got Austin Eckler, they got Keenan Allen, still one of the most reliable guys for like a 10.
Eckler's been fantastic. He's a machine.
Absolutely, man. You need like a little 10-yard first down catch, or you need like 7 yards on an in route. Like Keenan Allen's like the guy right there. So
it's tough too, because I'm sure Herbert in some sense feels like he's in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes. I feel like they're like chasing Patrick Mahomes in a division sense and just overall. Yeah. So to get in, I know that division is supposed to be competitive, but still the AFC is kind of stacked. There's a lot of good teams. Even though with like the quarterback situation. In Miami, like, they're still a good football team. So whoever wins the AFC is gonna win the AFC. Like, what I mean? So,
absolutely. I mean, it's true. Like, when you think about your top 10 quarterback list, it does seem like way more of them are coming out of the AFC than the NFC, and that's the most important position on the field. It feels like kind of a lot more crazy stuff happens in the NFC. We never really know what to expect from a team from week to week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna go towards the Chargers with my pick on this one, just because I do think Herbert's a little bit further ahead in his development than Lawrence is. But I mean, it would be a cool moment. Like, we saw Joe Burrow kind of break out early in his career last year. I think it'd be kind of cool to see T-Law take that next step. When he's the only game on at that time. That's the cool thing too about the playoffs, is that every single game is a primetime game. You got all eyes on you, and all fans from all other teams watching you too. So.
And that's a thing that, like, Jacksonville, like, they don't ever get primetime games, you know what I mean? So it's a different, it's probably a different feel. Like, they flexed last week's game to primetime with just the playoff implications. So it's just, it's I think it's cool. to see, that winning culture, change in a locker room in a franchise that maybe doesn't have it all the time. So it's great to see. If Jacksonville were to go on a run, I will not be upset.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be a really cool story. I think a lot of people will be rooting for them for sure.
Absolutely.
But, moving on to the next matchup here, and this one, again, maybe the closest thing, in my opinion, to a lock. I think when I had to spend my prediction tokens in Madden, I went heavy on Bills beating the Dolphins here, only because of the quarterback situation. I feel bad for Tua. Shaky Chan says in the chat, man, I feel bad for him.
Me too.
How many concussions? At least 3 that are like registered, but he possibly more than that too. And the seizure on the field, and he started off red hot, man. Like at first, it's like whenever he started, they couldn't lose.
The first
and then they
month you could make MVP arguments,
for sure.
Like he was looking that good, and Reek was just he was just getting open all the time, and Tua was he was finding him. He was able to get it there too, and you could just see like when Tua was out there, you could just see he wasn't. Wasn't 100%.
For sure, and it kind of started off weird. Like, I remember right before Madden dropped and right before the NFL season started, I don't know if you remember this, but the Dolphins tweeted out a picture from training camp of Tua throwing a ball to Tyreek, and it was thrown like 5 yards behind him, like underthrown, and that was like the highlight they picked. And it was like, oh man, Tua's got no arm strength, but he looked legit like a star in the making.
He did.
So I don't know, man. I'm super nervous for his career going forward. I don't even know, like, he has to really weigh the potential long-term health ramifications of continuing this league. It sucks, man. It sucks because he just seems to be the opposite of blessed. But they fought hard. I think they won on like a walk-off field goal the last week of the season to kind of make their way in.
And like that game ended like 11-6. You know what I mean? It's like if you're going to Buffalo and somehow winning, like you're gonna have to score like 5 times that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean. For the Dolphins, I don't know. It's gonna take a miracle. I mean, they do have playmakers. They have Reek. They got Waddle. They got a young, exciting receiving core. They got they have weapons for sure. But I mean, this Bills team is the one team that I would say is probably the second category after the Chiefs. I think they're right up there. I think honestly, I kind of think it's going to be Bills and Chiefs are going to have to match up again. I think that's the only way that this thing pans out. And we've been treated some good games between those two teams too. Last year's game between the Chiefs and Bills was one of the best playoff games I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but what do you think of this Bills team?
It's also like I said earlier, it's a playoff divisional game, and you just don't know like what can happen. Like a lot of crazy. Once the playoffs happen, everyone's 0-0. You know what I mean? Nothing else matters. And when you got two teams that might have that preamble aggression, because they had a couple close games that the week 3 the Dolphins beat the Bills practically on the goal line. Yeah. And then towards the end in that blizzard, the Bills went on a game-winning field goal. So they've had close games. Like obviously Bills are gonna be heavy favored. They got obviously ideal quarterback situation. So they should take care of business, but. You just don't know. Like division games are just gross, man. They're just you don't know how they're gonna play out. And like over the last 10, 15 years, whenever you see these playoff games in the division, I've experienced as a Giants fan. I've had to witness many divisional playoff games, and between the Eagles and the Cowboys, it's always nasty. No matter who's favored, who's better, who's got the better quarterback, who's got a better coaching. It's just gonna be one of those deals. But if I had for like pick wise. I think the Bills are just going to take care of business. What they got going on in that locker room right now has to just be like the culture and just the energy, especially after like everything they went through with the the Hamlin situation and that not knowing what's going to happen and just all the stress that I think gets weighed on the organization and all the extra stuff that goes on in there. And then he ends up pulling through, and you could just the whole league just wraps around him.
Huge sigh of relief. Yeah,
and then and trying to eliminate their division rival last week, and they start off the game with an opening kickoff. Like that's just stuff it's just magical type stuff. So I don't mean to like preset it in advance, but I think the Bills are just destined now. Like,
man.
Like that energy in that locker room has to just be unmatched. You know what I mean?
For sure, and I think I think they even had 2 kickoff returns last week too. So literally like every single unit, offense, defense, and special teams is like firing on all cylinders. They're definitely in a spot right now where they look like they're hitting their stride at the right time.
Yep.
Honestly, their record could be even better. Like you I don't know if you saw that Vikings-Bills game earlier.
Justin Jefferson catches a crazy.
It took like 7 miracles for us to win that game, and then Josh Allen just throwing the ball right into Patrick Peterson's gut. Like it wasn't even it was a high emotions game. But these guys, I think when they're on, they can beat any team in the league. They can be a powerhouse. I just hope for the Bills' sake, because I'm in Toronto. I'm really close. You're close to Buffalo too, like in New York. Like for that fan base, they're fanatical. They got one of the best tailgating cultures out there in the league.
Yeah,
I really hope for their sake that they don't find themselves not able to get over that Patrick Mahomes hump at some point. Like the Bills have always had that. The 4 straight Super Bowl appearances without one. I hope that they don't have that. I hope they get that curse lifted. I feel like during Josh Allen's career, I'd love to see the Bills win at least one Super Bowl.
Their fan base is just so entertaining. Like I got a couple guys at work that are diehard Bills fans, and they always go to the game, and it's like, dude, those guys are drinking when the sun comes up. Like those guys are like, you know what I mean? Like those guys will do anything at any time if it's Bills Mafia Sunday. So I know a lot of Bills fans too, and we got a lot of. I'm sure we both got a lot of followers that are on the Bills Mafia. So if the Giants don't obviously win it, I'm all, and plus just being a big New York guy and living in New York and Buffalo being like 3 hours from me, I'll be all in on Buffalo on the AFC side for sure.
Absolutely, man. I think we've seen the Niners being the big lock in the NFC, and this is probably the big AFC lock here. But moving on now to something that's near and dear to both of our hearts here, the next game. All right, so that's going to be the early Sunday game, the Dolphins versus Bills. And then at 4:30 Eastern time, we got the Giants and the Vikings going toe-to-toe. The battle of the frauds, like up and down seasons, really up and down seasons for both of us. What are your thoughts here? Like I saw you tweeted something out about an hour before the stream, the injury report, and it looks like you guys are healthy, like legitimately, like everybody's healthy right now.
Yeah, and pretty much the whole course of the season, at least like towards the middle and towards the end, we had like so many guys in the secondary out, you know what I mean? Luckily, we've survived keeping DJ and Saquon healthy all year. And that's the thing. We're kind of lucky right now. We're getting healthy at the right time, and then you got your guys' sense where you got a couple guys offensive tackles out and stuff like that. And it's just it's gonna be. I have so many different like theories for this game. Because at like deep down as a Giants fan, I know anything bad that can happen will happen. But what I do know, when we played on Christmas Eve, it was an absolute hell game, like just absolute nasty games. Like both quarterbacks didn't play like the absolute best. DJ had a pick. I know Kirk struggled a little bit. The Giants had a couple fumbles, a couple mishaps and stuff like that. I think it's going to be the same type of thing, but with the Giants being healthy, Adoree Jackson's going to be on Jetta's. I think that's so huge. I'm a little concerned because he hasn't played in like 2 months, so I'm a little worried considering you can consider Jetta as probably the best receiver in the league. So first game back, bro, and you're up against Jetta. So
they better send some safety help for sure.
Absolutely. I know Delvin. What we were talking about yesterday. I'm not sure. Delvin's not 100% or is banged up or something. So. I just like in the sense of being a Giants fan that we're completely healthy. Offensive line's healthy. Saquon, DJ are good. Our wide receiver core has been so bad this year, and we've been losing guys. Kenny Golladay is almost a ghost. You know what I mean? You don't even see him half the time. He caught a touchdown last week, which was kind of funny. Giants Twitter went kind of crazy for that, so that was kind of cool. So we're fully healthy. We got our secondary, our D line's all good. And Kayvon, seems like he's finding his stride a little bit. But you guys are a very good football team. You guys have beaten the Bills. You guys have had a couple ups and downs, like you were talking about earlier, losing to Philly, early in the season. It's kind of a knockdown. But winning the NFC North, even though the Packers struggled, the Lions are a high power offense. Like it's kind of crazy the Lions didn't get in because I think they would have given San Fran a little bit of a run because they haven't played each other all year, and the Lions put up a lot of points. So, but. You guys are a very good team. You should be very proud of getting to this point. I know the whole critic of Kirk Cousins. I feel the same way about Daniel Jones. Our fan bases and the fan bases around our teams are always going to criticize our quarterbacks, especially in a primetime sense. Like DJ just won his first primetime game against Washington a few weeks ago. And what I'm seeing on Twitter, everyone was talking about Kirk Cousins' record in the 4 o'clock slot. You know what I mean?
Nasty.
It's somebody's gonna make a play that somebody's gonna go out there and play like in a game that they've never played before. I mean, Kirk Cousins has won a playoff game before against the Saints, so he has that little bit of edge. You guys being at home, huge edge. It's a tough place to play. With it being a dome, it's gonna be loud. It's gonna be energetic. I have to obviously take the Giants.
Of course you do.
I think you guys are favored by 3 when I looked at it last, which honestly is
that's what Jay Lips is saying. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, I'm so and for everyone that as if you didn't already know, but I'm like a number 1 Daniel Jones fan. I'm just so proud of the kid because he has so many doubters this year, and he had so little to work with, and bringing in another coaching staff for Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and Wink, just kind of changing the culture. It's just it's been so much fun to watch, and if it does end on Sunday, I've had an absolute blast. I was able to sidecast a couple of the games and just have an absolute just a ton of fun. Which the last 6 years the Giants haven't made the playoffs since I was a senior in high school. You know what I mean? Like that feels like forever ago. So this is gonna be it's gonna be a fun moment for me. And obviously both sides. I know the Vikings are dying to get back in and make a run. But there's a lot of history with the Giants and Vikings. So I expect another just dog fight. It's gonna be grimy. Someone could definitely win on a game-winning field goal. But if I have to just give you something, I'm liking the Giants like 27-23. My heart is gonna be racing. I'm gonna be tweeting like a madman. I'm gonna have the eye black on. I'm gonna be sweating.
Let's go.
I'm gonna be like, I'm so excited, dude. But I'm gonna be an absolute mess, dude. I'm gonna be an absolute mess. But it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I expect a good game. That's for sure.
Absolutely, man. And it's funny, like Daniel Jones too. At the beginning of the year, he's still young and he's still developing for sure. Like there's definitely room for growth there. But at the same time too, he's also not young enough that he wasn't on the hot seat going into this year too. He's like, what is he, like 25 years old, something like that? Yeah. So, like if he's 22, 23 and showing the development, it's like, yeah, we got our sure shot quarterback of the future. But at the same time, the Giants are probably feeling like they really had to assess and see, can he lead this team to the playoffs? It's crazy. Some of the cards that came out in Madden last year with the crazy speed for Daniel Jones. In regs, he's like I think he's like 92 or 93 speed in regs or something ridiculous. But the guy is actually an athlete. I think when they kind of leaned into his I think by incorporating some designed run plays and actually leaning into that ability is actually kind of giving him a chance to excel within their offense.
And when the Giants were struggling towards November, they got away from that QB, because I'm telling you right now, if Saquon's hot and you can do those little read options and PA fakes and he boots he can get out. It's already insane. He's already the Giants' all-time rushing leader in touchdowns and yards.
No way. That's crazy.
It's insane, dude.
Then that's over Tiki Barber. That's insane to me.
Well, just for the quarterback. I'm saying just for the quarterback. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God. I thought you were talking about Saquon there for a second. I was like, oh my God, no, there's no shot. Tiki's
I mean, maybe, bro, maybe.
Wild.
Maybe one day. But I mean, and he's not turning the ball over, right? He's not going to blow your mind every season with 45 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, but he had 3,200 yards, 700 of it was on the ground. And he had 15 touchdowns and 4 picks. The biggest thing with Daniel Jones going this year is he gonna turn the ball over, and is he gonna make the right reads and step it up in the pocket too? The last couple of years, I've noticed he get real flat-footed. You know what I mean? He wouldn't move out of the pocket, but over the last pretty much all season, but over the last few weeks, it was just so much fun to just see him recognize pressure or something happens, someone gets a quick block shed or something, and he's just able to get out of the pocket if he is smart enough to also throw it away if he has to, but just get those few extra yards on the ground, and or maybe if somebody does break open on a broken play, he can do that as well. So it's just, as a Giants fan, I watched Eli for 16 years. So bringing a new quarterback was always going to be we got to have the guy because we always had the guy for a long time. And I can happily say, going into the season, there was a lot of pressure on the kid. The Giants declined his 5th-year option. Well, there's no doubt in my mind he's coming back next year, and he's going to get a nice contract too. So I'm just genuinely happy for the kid. He's had literally nobody to throw the ball to. Right now, our number 1 receiver is Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah.
So who we signed literally off the Bills practice squad like middle of the season.
And Kadarius Toney leaving to the Chiefs, another high draft pick that never panned out, didn't want to be there from the get go. That was shocking to me when I saw that happen, and you know, to not want to be on any NFL franchise is kind of crazy to me too. But I'll make do with the guys you got in the room.
The Giants, they had their issues with him. Like he's actually got some pretty fire music, but he's big into music, and they thought like stuff like that was going to consume him and stuff. So there was other little implications as well of why they did what they did. But it just sucks when you like take a first round pick and quite literally throw it away at this point. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, but one last comment about Daniel Dimes before I go on to talking about this Vikings team, this Vikings season.
Yes, Daniel, the Vikings rundown. Give it to me.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, Danny Dimes he's not Josh Allen. Okay, he's not Josh Allen. We can agree on that. Josh Allen's
absolutely.
He might be him. I was saying he could be Josh Allen light. Like honestly, because the way that his runs are not necessarily these crazy like Lamar Jackson scramble out of pressure and stuff. It's a lot of like designed run plays and straight line speed. Like he's got incredible straight line speed. And one thing that gives the Vikings a lot of trouble in that game against the Bills, Allen, I don't know if you see Josh Allen, when he sits in the pocket, he just stands there. He doesn't move. He just stands right there. Yeah. And then he takes off in a straight line down the middle of the field if something opens up. And I think Daniel Jones, if he plays a game similar to Josh Allen's, at least in the run game, could absolutely give us fits because we're not the best tackling team. We're kind of adjusting to moving from a 4-3, which we've been running for decades, to a 3-4, and not necessarily having the right personnel for a 3-4 either for this first year. It has been interesting, but this Viking season's been crazy. It's been. There's been moments where it feels like a Team of Destiny season where it's like, we had the win against the Bills where we probably shouldn't have won that game, but a bunch of things went our way. Allen fumbled the ball in the end zone, touchdown there. We had a whole bunch of things go right. Justin Jefferson catching something that I don't even understand how it happened. Like something that was kind of rivaling Odell Beckham's catch. As
that's
far as
play of the year. When we look at it now, that has to be play of the year.
Yeah, fourth and 18, just given the circumstances of it and the gravity of the moment in the game, it was huge. But and then we had the Kirko 2 chains. We had the private jet flights when they were on their little win streak. We had those memories which were hilarious. They were fun. We loved it. Seeing probably the Mr. Cole's Cash himself, Kirk Cousins, kind of stepping out of his shell a little bit, not just being the quiet Mormon dude that we're all accustomed to, But I liked it. I like seeing that personality from Kirk. He came out the one press conference wearing the Vikings suit. I thought that was kind of cool. But then, we also had...
I like Kirk, man. Kirk and DJ remind each other. They're both, like, goofy looking, you know what I mean? They have, like, those, like when they come out of their shell with like those like different personality traits, it's just cool to see, and like they're easy to like, you know what I mean? They're easy guys to like, and the team around them too. And I can sense it from when Kirk's got the chains on the airplane or whatever, the whole the whole team's like cheering him on and stuff like that. So I can tell too, like, for both sides that like the team around him and the coaching staff really likes them, and they're two just easy easy likable guys that they're very similar in how they play, and when things are going good, they both do similar things, and then when things are going bad, they're both doing turn the ball over and stuff like that. So they're so similar. But I mean, like, you guys won what, 12 games this year, 13 games this year?
We won 13 games, So I mean, it is a 17 game season. We won. I think the last time we won 13 was the year that we hosted the bowl when the Minneapolis Miracle happened, and then we got flooded by the Eagles in the second round. So I mean, it's we've been down this road before, but we kind of after that Bills game, I kind of thought Team of Destiny, but then we've also had a couple of really crushing no-show moments. Like, first of all, the 33-0 fall behind of the Colts. People talk about like, oh, great moment. I was like, how do you go down 33-0 in the first half against one of the worst teams in the league? Like, that just shows you the duality of this team. We sometimes we disappear, and it's when we're looking good, we're looking great, but when we're looking bad, we're looking like a bottom 5 team in this league. Then having I think the game against Detroit that we lost, Detroit just outplayed us straight up. I do think that Detroit probably has maybe the brightest future. Obviously, I don't think Jared Goff is the long-term quarterback option. He did play really well this year, but I think they have a whole bunch of draft capital from the trades that they've been making. Getting rid of Matt Stafford, I think that was the perfect timing. Awesome, for sure. Absolutely, man. I think the Lions could actually be the story of this division for the next couple of years. But it's the defense this year is the one thing. Like, our defense has not showed up at all in any game, really. Like, we've had big plays, like big interceptions by Patrick Peterson and stuff. We've had big individual efforts on individual plays. But as far as a unit, our secondary, with this new Donatell or whatever the hell his name is, defensive coordinator, he plays, really loose, saggy, nasty zone coverage where he plays so far back, and literally we're giving up 20-yard uncontested passes underneath. And even though we play so far back in coverage, we're still getting bombed over the top too. I don't understand. The only two consistent difference makers we have are Zadarius Thomas, and then Zadarius Smith on the one end, and then we got Danielle Hunter, both of them who are playing as outside linebackers now. Danielle Hunter really struggled, I think, going from being a hand in the dirt defensive lineman where he was a force to being, a stand-up, sometimes having to play coverage. But I think the way this defense has to play, we have to send more blitzes. We don't blitz at all this year. We got to send more heat, and we got to press our corners because honestly, this saggy coverage, it hasn't worked at all this year. And I feel like the one player I'd love to see, or the one personnel I'd love to see moved, is our defensive coordinator. No matter what happens in the playoffs, this guy ain't it, man. Like, Kevin O'Connell's such a young, exciting head coach.
I've heard you talk about him too, even prior up until this week, just all season. When we talk about the Vikings, whatever, and when you were doing your sidecast and stuff, dude, just get this defensive coordinator off my field.
For sure, man. And it's we saw from when we played the Packers that that was the first time that Jefferson was really kind of shut down, and a lot of it, it wasn't just a one-on-one with Jair Alexander, who's really good, but also the safety help was good. We've had Adam Thielen really decline this year. He's still a great player. We still love him. He's still a local, Minnesota boy. But I think 90% of his catches are contested because he doesn't have separation anymore. He's still a great route runner. He's still great at catching it in traffic, but he just can't get that separation he used to on his double moves. So
I think your biggest X factor is TJ Hawk. Because the Giants are so bad at covering tight ends, dude. We played a few tight ends this year. Watching when we played Mark Andrews and the Ravens, this dude just runs a 7-yard, just stick out, and he just stands there and nobody's around. Yeah. So, and I want to say he had 2 touchdowns against the Giants on Christmas Eve as well. Yeah. So that's gonna be your if you guys beat us on Sunday, he could play a massive factor in that because the Giants are so bad at guarding tight ends. It's insane.
That's good to know. And again, Hawkinson, I do like the trade.
The
thing about Hawkinson though, he also does, and I've noticed this. I don't know if Detroit Lions fans would agree, but there's been a lot of third down plays where he gets hit the sideline and drops. I've seen a lot of drops from him too. Obviously, I do think he's a top tier tight end, and hopefully we're able to lock him up. I'm sure he'll get a big salary. But the biggest thing about this Vikings team, I do look at it as kind of a last hurrah for this group because our defense in particular is super highly paid, really aging, not performing well. A lot of those guys, Eric Kendricks, Danielle Hunter, Delvin Cook, because he's getting paid $17 million. Adam Thielen getting paid $17 million next year. I could see the biggest roster turnover in the last 10 years going into next season. Regardless of what happens, we're not going to be able to bring back a whole bunch of our fan favorite veterans. We're going to have to kind of hopefully our new GM does a good thing, that makes good moves in the draft, builds personnel that fit his scheme. But it's kind of if the Vikings don't win it this year with this group, and I don't think we're favorites to win it, we're always going to wonder what would have happened, what could have been with this group.
Absolutely. You guys had a couple of teams when, you got to the NFC Championship game, in 19? Yeah. You guys have been there before. You guys, as a whole, over the last few years, you guys have been a good football team, what I mean? So you guys, you got what you need to make a run. I know you're obviously a little concerned with the defense and stuff, but you got probably a top 5 tight end, you got a top probably 3 receiver. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You're gonna be at home. You guys are you guys what, the 3 seed?
I believe so. I think it's the Niners got the 2 seed, right? And then I think we're the 3rd, and then the Cowboys.
Well, most likely if you guys, because you're gonna have to, if you guys win, you guys would play, I think, the winner of Tampa and the Cowboys. Yeah. So you guys could still host another, playoff game, and I think that's a huge factor too, man. It's I think going to a dome and that atmosphere is gonna be tough because it's gonna be loud, and that's what I worry about. And I know Seattle's its own breed, but when the Giants went to Seattle in middle of the season, the noise got to them. You know what I mean? So when you compact that in the dome and just the playoff atmosphere, and I don't know if you've ever, like really seen like the crowd at the Vikings game. Like they get into it, man.
Oh,
They got.
I was lucky enough to go to one game.
They're all decked out, like.
Yeah. I was lucky enough the year that they hosted the Super Bowl. I made like we would always do these road trips. My college buddies and I would go catch a game. Like normally in the Midwest, somewhere that's easy to drive to. But we ended up making the trek to Minneapolis. It was a long ass drive. I swear it was like 20 hours on the road. We only spent like 2 nights in the city. It was like, and then 2 days of driving. But it was so worth it, man. The Skull Chant's really cool. Like the noise is, it's a beautiful stadium. The noise is really amazing there too. But it's interesting, man. Like with this Vikings team, I don't have confidence. I've had to watch every single game up to the last minute, and all of our wins have come in the last minute. There have been points in every single game this season where I'm like, oh my god, the wheels are falling off right now. And miracles make you forget about how bad your team can be at certain moments. But I really am curious to see which team shows up here.
I think like, to be honest with you, of all the games this week, I think this is the matchup that like both teams are like deadlock. Like you know what I mean? Like the most balanced matchup. Like you don't know what you're gonna get from who. You don't know if it's gonna be a high scoring game or it's going to be a snooze fest, like a field goal game. You got so many X factors, like, one that we even talked, like, just say if Saquon can get going early, and I know Saquon's had his ups and downs this year, and, when he's been on fire, he's been so much fun. I'm just so happy for the dude to be able to play in every game this season and just be able to just mentally, because I know that it's had to be a challenge on him.
For sure.
To, go through and I'm sure all the doubters and and same thing with DJ with the contract stuff. You just don't know, are these guys even going to be Giants next year? So it's interesting. You mentioned too about the roster changes going into next year. We could be looking at a different Giants team as well with the Vikings too. So like I think like this. Even though the Giants are still kind of in that rebuild, first year coaching staff, and DJ's really showing out, and the wide receiver core is kind of all over, and you guys got an interesting defense situation. I think like both teams are in like different spots, but like in a spot where like this game matters a lot. Like this game can go a long way. For the like you guys are in that sense of like we need to make a run. And to me, it's like, man, if we can just win a playoff game and just really feel that winning culture, even if we get slaughtered going into Philly next week, just to go into the season with a new staff, all the pressure on Daniel Jones and Saquon and all these other guys to be able to just go out there and win a playoff game on the road, I think it's would be just monumental in the culture change. But it's going to be also hard because that pressure is also on Minnesota to make a run, and they're gonna show up. Like I can't see I think we're gonna see like a duel. Like I don't think we're gonna see a lot of mistake football. We're gonna see like just the two. I guess I don't know if you call them powerhouses, but I feel like they're gonna play like two powerhouses, and it's gonna be.
I think it's gonna be a good game.
I'm gonna be holding my breath every snap. Let me tell you.
Absolutely,
every snap, dude.
You know what? and the last thing I wanted to touch on here too, and you mentioned it earlier, is like the injuries coming at the wrong time. We were very healthy for the first part of the season, like incredibly healthy. Going into our bye week, even we really hadn't dealt with any significant injuries. But then, we had Christian Darrisaw, our kind of all-pro level left tackle, who's going to be a stud for the next 10 years. He went down, and that really exposed like a lot of how bad our offensive line really was. And then we had Garrett Bradbury, our first-round pick center from a few years back, who, again, I think his fifth-year option was not picked up, so he might, be off the team next year as well. But he finally started to develop, like his fourth year in the league, finally started to develop and become, like, at least an average center, which we haven't had an average center in years. And then we have Brian O'Neill, who's probably our second-best lineman with the Achilles tear. He's out.
That's the one I just found out about. Like, I didn't realize how, like, you guys are depleted. And again, like I'd rather be you guys at full strength, but it's like, wow, like man, like.
And he's not necessarily a Pro Bowl player, but he's probably top 10 to top 5 at his position. And like for a team that's been starved of O-linemen for like 10 years, like we had a great O-line with Steve Hutchison, Matt Burke, like Hall of Famers, and then we went to having a terrible O-line for the last 15 years. I can't remember having a good line where our quarterback's been protected. So
another thing too, and it happens every year, no matter what the team. Everyone forgets like how important the offensive line is, like how much they direct, just certain things and just make sure, because without a good you can have a super talented receiver QB duo, whatever, but if they you know, if you can't hike the ball and get, you know, an opportunity for that receiver to get open or whoever, or, you know, in a running sense, like, you know, it doesn't matter. And that's what, like, for the longest time, you know, Giants fans and, you know, and other teams too that had dicey quarterback situation. It's like, you know, oh, we want to make a quarterback change. We should go get a guy like Rodgers and stuff. But it's like, you got to think, when there's a bad offensive line, it don't matter who's behind, you know.
Rodgers would hate playing in Minnesota just because of the offensive line. Like, don't get me wrong, like, Rodgers is still incredible when he's protected. He's had Bakhtiari his whole career there to, like, at left tackle. He's had consistency on the O-line. You're absolutely right, though. Like, Kirk is always the most pressured quarterback in the league every year. Like, you have to kind of watch it every single week to realize how bad it is. And there was a few early in the season when we were kind of feeling that miracle season where we're like, man, we've had like 5 games in a row where our O-line's been good. Like, I can't remember the last time we've had 5 games. But then again, once the holes started showing up, you know, once the injuries started happening, we already have holes on our O-line when everybody's healthy. And then when a couple guys go down at the same time, then we're historically bad. Like, you know, the last week of the season, or the second last week against the Packers, with our third string center in, and the crowd noise being a factor too. Like I don't know how many false start penalties we got, or how many times where the ball just didn't even get snapped. So we won't have to worry about the noise. Obviously, being at home, the Vikings are gonna, you know, the fans are gonna root for them. But I don't know, man. It's interesting, and I will say too, with this offensive line that we have, when Dallas came into town and Micah Parsons was unleashed on us, we had absolutely no answers. And Kayvon Thibodeau, you know, while he's not at that level yet, I could see him, you know, wreaking havoc. And I'm definitely going to be rooting for the Bucs to beat the Cowboys by some way, shape, or form. Because I don't ever want to see Micah come into US Bank Stadium again. I'm done with it.
Yeah, they'll probably be the matchup. I mean, you guys get in the 3 seed if the Niners win. You know, you guys would end up probably going to Philly at that point. Based on who wins the Bucs and Cowboy game. Yeah, it's gonna be nasty, man. Like I'm like I said, and when the time comes, like right now, I'm excited. Now that we're talking about, like, I'm excited.
For sure, me too, man.
Like when 4 o'clock hits, like when pregame starts, I'm gonna be a disaster, dude. Like I am gonna be sweating. I'm gonna be like pacing him. You know, I'm going to a homie's house with a bunch of Giants fans, so it's gonna be like, you know, I haven't experienced that, you know. In 6 years, you know what I mean? But, you know, last time the Giants were in the playoffs, like, I was like, you know, not that I'm the most mature person in the world, but like I was such an immature Giants fan. Like when the Giants lost to the Packers in 16, dude, I like threw a fit, dude. Like,
oh, bro, it means so much. It's a short season. Every game means so much. The playoffs is everything, man. It's everything.
It does, man. And like even like just, you know, watching every game this year and just doing the fun stuff like the sidecast, like a lot of the viewers got to like really see, like, I am a freaking psycho when it comes to
You're a fanatic, Giants. Man. You really are.
I am, man. Like I'm like, I could be like in a household by myself. I'm gonna be yelling. I'm gonna be clapping. I'm gonna be like just yelling at the TV. Like I absolutely love my Giants, man, and you know, I'm used to like at this point of the season going, all right, it's over, you know. But now I'm at a point where either, you know, it goes one or two ways, right? You either win it all or you're gonna rip my heart out. So here we go.
It's the nature of being a fan, man. It's not it's not for the faint of heart for sure. But
like I'm gonna probably cry either way. If we win it all, I'll cry. If we lose in the playoffs, I'll cry. So
absolutely, man. We're ending up crying either way by the end of the day. But absolutely, yeah. My guy Cirque earlier in the chat asked, "What's the friendly wager that we have for this game?" Because we got to have something on the line, obviously. We talked about in chat potentially a jersey swap of sorts. Are you still down with that?
I can, whatever you think would be like the most fun. You know, because like, you know, the whole like gifted sub things, you know, that's always cool. But like we have an opportunity. We don't get opportunities like this. We rarely play each other. Right?
I know, exactly. Not in the same division.
We play each other once every 4 years practically, right? Give or take. So the fact that we have a chance to play twice, you know, we could do something fun. We could do something on Twitter. Maybe, you know,
write the tweet for the opposing person to post or something like that, or
we could, you know, they got those like you know, like Nike T-shirts on the NFL shop. Maybe like, you know, like, you know, you guys win, I'll buy a Jettas one. You know what I mean?
I'd be down. I'd be down for that, man.
Absolutely. I'll look at before Sunday. I'll look at NFL shop because, you know, I don't want either one of us. Because jerseys are friggin' expensive,
especially because I'm gonna eventually use it as a dish rag too.
I mean, like you can get like those like you can get those like artificial like like jerseys from like freaking China, but that you're not gonna see that jersey till next season. So
exactly.
I'll look on NFL Shop and maybe like or you give me
I'll take
player
a look
you
too.
want me to buy.
Yeah,
and, goddamn well, I'm going to if we're doing that, I'm gonna have to make you buy a Daniel Jones t-shirt.
Absolutely, man. Okay, I'm down. I love it. I love it. Little old school jersey swap. Let's
that
do
would
it.
be great. And then like the next.
And I gotta wear eye paint too, Sis Cirque. I gotta go find some of my wife's mascara and cover my face in it or something.
Yes, dude, the eye paint, dude. Oh my god, I'm gonna be wearing that shit just for the watching the playoff game, man. So it always adds a little extra fun. You get really into the game. I recommend it, Murph. I've been telling all the boys, I'm like, yo, put on some eye paint. You just become one with the game, whether you're watching or you're playing Madden. It just creates a little fun,
I like it, man. I like it. I'd be happy to go through my. I don't know if you're a big card collector. I've got into it recently, but I'm going to go through if the Eagles win. I'm going to sort through, check out some Prime Eagles merch that I can then send your way too. I got some stamps ready to go. You're not that far away in upstate New York, and I'll put together a little.
I know it was so cool, dude. Like when you sent me the cards when I won that giveaway you did the one time. It was just so cool because like I like checked my mailbox and you just like
man, getting mail is fun
because like you wrote on it like like it was like your handwriting, KingKov. So it was just like cool. It was bigger than just the cards too. It was just cool that like like having you wrote out the name and whatever and knowing that like that came from you. It was just that was like really like genuine and cool. So
bro,
I'm definitely down.
We love technology, like being on Twitch, like connecting virtually is cool, but like there's something interesting about getting something physical in your hand, that you can kind of like.
Yeah.
It's old school, man. The U.S. Postal Service will never die. They'll never let it die. But all right, there we go, boys. We got it locked in.
I will find something for you. You can find something for me, and then
for sure, man.
Sunday we'll get it going, and then I'm thinking maybe the next time you're live, like once we get it. Next time you're live, wear the shirt or next time, whatever the case is.
I'll let you know for sure. I'm not going to do it like, I'm going to advertise it. If I'm going to be dressed up in Eagles gear, I'm definitely going to let you know about it beforehand. So
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we'll definitely do that, man. That sounds like a lot of fun. And that's the way we can kind of, have our own thing, and it can be fun for the streams too. So I'm all in on that. That'll be fun.
Man. Let's get it. And now we spent probably, half of our podcast talking about the teams that we love. But let's go on to another matchup here. We got another division rivalry here in the first round. We got the Ravens versus the Bengals. Bengals again pretty red hot. Again, started off kind of mediocre at the beginning of the year and then caught fire, kind of similar to how they did last year. And then we got the Ravens with Lamar not playing. Is confirmed at this point? I've heard Lamar's out. Like I didn't realize his injury was that serious.
I was talking to the boys last night. We got a lot of Ravens fans that come through and. The consensus is Lamar's most likely not playing. I'm telling you right now, and like I know the Bengals are hot, and Joe Shiesty is, all the fun nicknames, and they're they're trying to get back to the Super Bowl. I'm telling you right now, if Lamar were to be healthy and playing, I would take the Ravens. I really would.
Yeah, I'm a big Lamar fan, man. I think he gets a lot of hate for no reason. Yeah,
and again, like we've talked about the whole. I think this is going to be the closest of the divisional games, even with Tyler Huntley starting. Yeah. Just because these teams have such a history, playing each other. Like this is gonna be like, the new coaching staff, the new uprise, of Cincinnati, and then you got Harbaugh on the other side. I'm telling you though, it's a shame Lamar isn't. If he does play, he's obviously not gonna be 100%. Because I am a big Lamar fan, man. I absolutely love what he does when he, especially when he gets an open field. I know everyone likes to call him a running back, but the dude can sling it as well. Yep. They got kind of a weird team, but like when they're able to, be a heavy Russian team, they're very very tough to beat. But I think this game's gonna be a little bit closer than even with Huntley though. I do got the Bengals snagging a win just because also they're at home. Yeah. And I feel like they're they got that. I saw a tweet today about Joe Mixon saying he says something like that we're the big dogs of the AFC or something like that. So they have that kind of swag to them, and after winning the AFC last year when nobody expected them to, they're gonna go out there, especially in a division game, and play their asses off. I do think it's gonna be a little bit closer. I don't know if someone's got the spread. I'm assuming
it looks like Bengals 8.5. So that's actually a pretty big spread. But I mean, with with Huntley starting, I understand that it's a big number because, I mean, I've seen him. This is the same Huntley who filled in for Aaron Rodgers when he broke his collarbone. Is that right? Is it the same dude? So I love this dude because that was the one season when the Vikings clearly had the division. We didn't have to play against Aaron Rodgers for a year, so I have very fond memories of Huntley being in the NFC North. You know, but you know, I totally agree with you. I'm a big Lamar fan too. I think you know, he's a versatile player. I think he gets probably more hate than any young MVP winning quarterback has ever gotten. But he's definitely out. Mr. Snot just saying that. Yeah, that's what I've heard. He's not going to play in the game. And I don't know. And if he's not even in talks to be active, he probably is not going to be in the next game too if they do win this one. They might have to think about an entire postseason without him. And what are the odds of going through either the Bills or the Chiefs
that gauntlet? Without, like, you're going to have to, because they're like, well, I'm assuming they're the 6th. They got to be the 6th seed. So they're most likely going to be going, you know, right to Kansas City next week if they were to win. You know what I mean? And you're going to need Lamar and some help. You know what I mean? To win that game. Like I said though, I think just with how this division is, this was a crazy division this year, man.
The Steelers, being a 500 team, like what the hell? The Steelers, I thought were going to be like a 2-win team this year, but shout out to Mike Tomlin by just being the most consistent coach in the NFL, and he refuses to have a losing season. I mean, it's crazy.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And you know, like then all the drama with Cleveland and the Deshaun Watson stuff, like this division has been like, and it's always kind of like, you know, hard fought, and there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on. But like this year, it's definitely like, you know, it definitely's been, you know, pretty crazy. But what someone said, 8.5 Bengals. I could see the Ravens covering. I could definitely see the Ravens covering that spread.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Ravens here. It's not based in fact or anything. I actually, you know, I think the Bengals will win, but I'm siding with the Ravens here because
I'm feeling too, right? Like I'm like, I don't know why, I don't know what it is. Like I
don't hate the Bengals. They haven't done anything wrong, but I don't know why I don't want to root for them. I want to root for the Ravens because I grew up kind of loving that Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. I grew up loving that defense.
Absolutely, man. And that's another thing too. You got to factor in the experience of a coaching staff in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And, you know, you never know. If it's a grimy game, they got the best kicker in the world. You know, maybe they could win on 4 field goals and, you know, 1 touchdown and something like that.
That's
true.
Know?
But at the end of the day, you know, Joe Burrow has established himself as a top 5 quarterback. Jamar Chase, you know, is that guy. You know, they once again kind of surprised us, right? You know, because at the beginning of the season, they thought, you know, that was just a 1-year run. You know what I mean? But they've definitely, you know, want to get back there, and you can sense that, you know, they believe in it, and, you know, as they should. You know, they played good this year. They like you said at the beginning, kind of off to a rough start to get it going, but they still won their division. You know, and who knows what happened if that situation had happened. The Bengals could have still got the 1 seed. You know, so they're hungry, man. They're definitely hungry, but I don't know. I'm feeling the way you are. Like something deep down makes me want to be like, I want to take Baltimore. So I'm with you on that. If they do, it's going to be like they're gonna have to score a touchdown and go for the win. Like
absolutely, 100%.
You know what I mean?
It's gonna have to be an iconic moment. But you know, I think I will say too before I go too much further. I appreciate RK for the sub, my dude. RK says, "Let him know that I'm calling him an alcoholic." Well, thank you, RK, for bringing that up. But you know, one thing I got to say about the Bengals is that I was wrong about them. I was saying last year when they made the Super Bowl, I was saying that they were 2 ahead of schedule with Joe Burrow. I was like, I don't think Joe Burrow necessarily should have been in the Super Bowl last year. He was way ahead of schedule developmentally, but now after seeing them repeat again, you know, win the division, have a really good season after you know, a kind of slow start in the first couple weeks, I think that Joe Burrow just is that good already. I thought it was going to take him a few years to develop, you know, because he was an older quarterback coming out of college too. He stayed a little bit longer than most guys do, won the national championship. But man, they're not ahead of schedule. They legit are probably the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah, and he still got sacked like a crazy amount, man. Like he's still like, I don't know how many times he got dropped this year, but like over the last 2 years, he has to be either the most or definitely top like 3-5. Like
and showing durability too after that knee injury that kind of shortened his rookie year. Like that's it's scary, but it's also like, you know, it's kind of like he's got the opposite of the Tua Tagovailoa thing. He's got like the, you know, whereas Tua might kind of have that glass jaw where he just seems super prone to injury. You know, at least Joe Burrow has shown the ability to get back up and stay healthy for an entire season.
Absolutely.
I do think like they're going to be it's weird because, growing up it was always the Ravens versus the Steelers was always the division conversation, and the Browns were always terrible, and they still are.
Yep.
But now we got a point where maybe the Steelers are kind of entering a developmental stage, still competing. We got the Ravens are kind of, they don't have that wide receiver core. They do have a quarterback, but are they going to re-sign him long term? Because it seems like they don't want to give him the money. And then we get, the Bengals where they're set up for long-term success. So interesting to see how the AFC North has kind of changed over the years.
Yeah, it's going to be, especially if Lamar ends up leaving, what's going to happen there? Because a lot of people think Lamar is on his way out.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this. We got Drewzone dropping Gokeezy's OnlyFans link in the chat and instantly getting deleted by Nightbot. You love to see it. Yeah, but let's move on now to the last matchup here. So we've covered the Saturday and Sunday games, and then we also are treated to Monday Night Football, to a playoff edition here. Yeah. And we got the Cowboys versus the Bucks. I personally, I'm scared of the Cowboys personally. I've seen what they did to the Vikings. The game didn't even finish being televised. In the end of the third quarter, every single cable channel in Canada took that game off and put on like the Browns game or something. They put on a Bengals game because it was such a blowout. And I've seen what Micah Parsons can do. Bucks have been super up and down. I mean, Brady has a 500-yard passing game, and then they put up some stinker losses where they just look terrible. I don't know, man. What do you think about this game here, Cowboys versus Bucks?
Yeah, just to add a little side note, just something funny that you mentioned the Vikings-Cowboys game when they took it off the air. I was hanging out with my parents that Sunday for dinner or whatever, watching football, and I convinced my mom to make a DraftKings account.
Nice.
and she put at halftime when you guys were down by 20. I convinced her to put $100 on the Vikings to come back because they were
oh my god,
they were a plus 700. So if it hit, she would have.
That's wild.
$700. So just a little funny little side note. That game specifically kind of cracks me up a little bit because. I was explaining to her the odds and how it works, and she's like, "I'm gonna put 100 on it." I showed her how to do it. She actually did it. They ended up losing by 37. So just a funny little side note there. So, ever since then, she don't listen to me. So
that was the wheels came off. That was the same thing I saw. I've seen that game has been repeated twice because the Packers game, the second last week of the season, was the exact same thing. I actually went out to my buddy from out of town came in. We watched the 1:00 games. Went to a bar to watch the second one, and the Packers just flooded. There was actually in Toronto where it's mostly Bills fans here. You really don't see a lot of people, Vikings fan-wise, but we got into this bar. There's only one guy there, and he was wearing a Vikings hat. And he saw me wearing my Vikings hat. He's like, oh, let's go. But he left at the end of the first half. I should have left too. I lasted to the third quarter, and then I was out of there. Couldn't sit around and watch my team get flogged for much longer. But, who are you picking to win this one? What do you think?
Okay, so this is kind of a interesting, right? Another interesting game because, you got all the things with Tom Brady. It's like if this could be Tom Brady's last game. Is this gonna be Tom Brady's last game as a Buccaneer? Or you know what I mean? Is he coming? The overall interesting thing with this game is Tom Brady, obviously, right?
For sure.
They looked awful this year. They barely squeaked into the playoffs, and they get to host a playoff game
in a horrible division. NFC South was definitely the worst division in football this year.
If Carolina had beaten them, I think week 17, Carolina had a win in it, it would have just been insane. Yeah. To you almost gave the division to Sam Darnold after all the, you know what I mean. And so I just wonder too, what's going on in his head because he retires. That he comes back, and he's going through the divorce and all the drama there. And it's the dude's 45 years old. When is enough going to be enough? And is Monday night going to be enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Cowboys put up a lot of points. Obviously, going into Minnesota, the middle of the season, putting up 40 points. They put up 50 on the Colts. I mean, I know the Colts are a bad team, but you're still playing a professional football team. Yeah. You can put up a 50 burger. That's always impressive. But I want to deep down, it sucks to pick Brady, but I have to. You know what I mean? I just have to. But I think the Cowboys just go on the road. I just think they put up too many points. Yeah. I think Tom that team just seems like they've struggled too much against not even the biggest competition.
Mediocre competition
what I mean?
For sure.
Absolutely. I mean, a few weeks ago on Monday Night Football, they have to sneak out a comeback with like 6 minutes left to score 2 touchdowns. Then the week after on Sunday Night Football, or it was either Sunday or Thursday, against the Cardinals, they have to come back, to another 2-possession lead and, only a few minutes left. So like they've struggled really bad. But it's like you really think about it and you hold on to just Tom Brady's resume and just everything he's been through. He goes through. Is there really a world we live in where he retires, comes back, and loses a playoff game? Like, I feel like I really, really want to take the Bucs, and just simply because of him. And they still got weapons. They're still going to put up points, and they're it's going to be a dogfight. But I just think the Cowboys are just going to score too much. Dak has looked awful the last couple weeks. Like he really that pick 6 he threw on Sunday in Washington was really, really bad. So like I'm not sure what's going on with him. They got a lot of weapons. They got 2 great running backs. Pollard is absolutely insane.
Pollard's the difference maker, man. He put him on a wheel route, put him as a change of pace back. He's incredible.
Absolutely. He's like honest, like he's like a Madden running back in real life. Because he literally does everything you want, that you would use a running back for a Madden. So I just think they have too many weapons. And Dak literally for me, Dak just has to play like an okay game. You know what I mean? Like their defense is gonna keep him in the game. They're gonna get to Tom. And Tom, it seems like he's, usually we see Tom Brady as that guy. He's been here forever, literally. He's always cool, calm, and collected. But I have not seen Brady more frustrated this season that I've ever seen him. Like, dude, he's on the sidelines yelling at his offensive lineman. He's spiking his helmet. He had a game, I want to say it was last week or the week before, he gets sacked and he spikes the ball and gets called for a flag. Like, we don't see stuff like that from Tom Brady. We just don't see that vibe from him, that struggle vibe. Even every quarterback's gonna lose now and then. Like he's not gonna win every single game, win a ring every year. But it's just weird to see him lose and be that frustrated. And if the Cowboys get on him early and he shows that frustration, they don't stand a chance, man. They don't stand a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the Cowboys here in this game to win because the recency bias, seeing what they did to my Vikings, seeing how dangerous their defense can be, and they do have so many playmakers. They got CeeDee Lamb, they got Pollard, they got Zeke for short yardage too. So they have a legit 2-back system as well. They still have a pretty good offensive line. It's not what it used to be like a few years back, but it's still a good offensive line. And Dak is, I think, good enough. I don't think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl, but I think he's good enough to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he doesn't have to, blow your mind. He just has to be, baseline, just decent.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And but the one thing, though, I think I'm going to pick the Cowboys, and I'm going to eat my words, and I'm betting against Tom Brady again. I do this every year. I always bet against him. I've been doing it for 10 years now. I've been saying that he's past his prime. I've been saying that since he was probably 35 years old. Tom Brady, he's due to regress now. But he just especially in these big playoff games, he always shows up. Like magic always just seems to happen. 7 Absolutely. Super Bowl rings is crazy, and I don't think anybody will ever get that again at the quarterback position. Like Brady, you mentioned the frustration on the sidelines, being able to yell at your offensive lineman, being able to yell at your teammates. He has this intensity, and I think it comes partially from, maybe it's within him, partially from being with Belichick for all those years, where he can yell at people, and he actually, it doesn't demoralize the team. It actually gets people to listen and play better. Like, I think Kirk Cousins could never do that. Kirk Cousins has to be the nice guy. He has to try and fit in. But Tom Brady is the one player that everybody respects, and he can take a bite out of his teammates, and they're just going to actually up their game. So I respect it, man. There's not that many leaders like that in the NFL. There's a lot of guys, on defense who talk a big talk and get up in people's faces and stuff. But as far as an offensive player, he's probably the most intense player I've ever seen.
He's literally a coach and a player, with that intensity, and that's what I mean. Like you just said, it could go in a positive way too. Like him getting them fired up and getting on their ass about not playing well or not blocking or whatever. It very well could get these guys motivated or whatever. And again, them being at home, the huge X factor with every single game this weekend is the home team and the vibe you get from there, because it sets the tone, man. Like going to Buffalo is tough. Going to San Fran is tough. And going to Philly, going to these places, it's not easy in general. Even just the regular season, but you get to playoffs when it's do or die. Somebody's going home and somebody's playing next week, and that's what it's about. And when you take a guy like Tom Brady at home, and it's win or go home, you know what I mean? Is this his last game? We literally. we could be talking literally 3 years from right now, and Tom Brady could still be playing. You know what I mean? Man. So, it's still gonna be up in the air. And, like, could he end up going somewhere else? Like, there's definitely something's going to change. I feel like he either retires or goes somewhere else after this year. So, like, this could be his last game as a Buck. You know what I mean? And I'm sure he thinks he can go on a run after 7 rings. I'm sure you got to have that sort of feel like you can do anything. So we'll see if the Cowboys get on him early, and create that frustration. It could go both ways, good or bad. It's just what I've seen this season with how bad they play. They barely finished 500.
Yeah.
And second won the division, and like you just sense that like he just is not having fun.
No, definitely. But at the same time,
he's just
like
not having fun.
No, he's not. And I wonder how much of like to be that great, it has to kind of be an obsession. I think he is obsessed with winning right now, and it seemed like the perfect time to walk away. It was. With everything going on in his personal life, with who knows, man? His brain, his DNA is different than a regular human's DNA. I can't. Absolutely. Tom Brady's a one of a kind, and I'm picking him to lose in this game, but I kind of hope that he proves me wrong. I think the playoffs is better when Tom Brady's in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. And it's to me, like, what I wonder is, like, dude, like, so what's the difference between 7 rings and 8?
Yeah. No, nobody's catching you with 7. Nobody's, so I mean. Yeah.
Like, when you get beat by the Titans in the playoffs your last year with the Pats, and then you go to a new team and the first year you win it all, dude, what is anybody gonna say? Like for me, like Brady had his, see you later, right on to the stars ending.
Oh, it was perfect. It was perfect.
Everyone's be like, it was the dynasty of the Pats where he just goes to a different team and just wins it the first year. Like I don't know what else I don't know what goes on in his mind. Maybe now with his personal life having so many changes, maybe he's just holding on to football because that's what he maybe feels like is the only thing, like, keeping him going. And obviously with him acting crazy on the sideline and getting so into it still, like, obviously the compassion hasn't left.
Yeah, he still cares. He still cares, and maybe it's not a matter of like feeling like he has nothing left to prove. I think he would agree that he doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. Like, it's other people now have to measure up to him. But I guess maybe it's just that he feels like he has more football to give. Like, I guess he just feels like I'm still good enough. I could retire now, but I think of a comparable player. I think of Vince Carter in the NBA, who was incredible prime early in his career, but then he played like 20 seasons. He was he was okay to play until he was 10 minutes off the bench, 3 points a game player, because he loves the game of basketball. And I think maybe Tom Brady just loves the game of football so much, and he feels like he keeps his body in great shape. He's managed to beat Father Time. So, I mean, who are we to say, hang it up, you've done enough? Like, he'll decide he'll go out on his own terms, 100%.
And the thing with his accolades and his resume, like, okay, even, like, whatever, let's say they get their ass kicked or whatever, and he plays awful, and he leaves Tampa, somebody's going to call him. Like, somebody's you know what I mean? Like,
do we think the Patriots are so, like, locked in on Mac Jones being the future of that franchise? Do you think the Patriots wouldn't say, come back, run it back one more year?
Back. Yeah. I can see him going to Vegas with the Raiders too, man. Like, it's
Party Boy Brady, newly single Brady. Why not? Yeah, I can see it.
So this game holds more than just obviously being a playoff game and seeing where pans out with the rest of the NFC. We got some like league changing types, because even with the Cowboys too, like you lose this game, that's another first round bounce. With Dak and them, are the Cowboys are Cowboy fans going to be this is Dak's 7th year? Like, is it Is it now we're looking elsewhere and seeing what else is going on? And so there's a lot more, and that's the beauty of the playoffs, man. Because we got how many games we got this weekend?
We got 6 games this weekend. Yeah.
3 teams are going home and might have a whole new future next year, and 3 teams are going to be lock and loaded playing some of these guys are going to be the biggest game of their lives,
For sure.
You got guys like Daniel Jones and, a lot of Brock Purdy. Like, these guys are playing in the biggest games of their entire lives.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of it's going to be a crazy weekend, man. And I sadly have to work tomorrow, so I'm going to miss the early games. But Sunday, I'm going to be lock and loaded, obviously sweating out our game. And the Monday too, man. So, but it's gonna be quite literally a wild weekend, man, of football, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see who shows out. I'm hoping Also, on a side note, the Giants win, so I can get more Giants content for the theme team.
Absolutely.
Little side note there. I'm sure you're hoping for the same on your side.
I literally need the Vikings to win. I need the Vikings to go to the Super Bowl to make that Harrison Smith card usable. It's like 91 speed. It's freaking January, man. Why am I getting a 91 speed safety? There's no, even best case scenario, he's still not as good as the safeties that are out right now. So I need the Vikings to go to the Super Bowl just so my Mutt team can be decent.
I know, man. I'm like finally gonna assemble. I'm making the Giants team this week, and I'm like, dude, please just win Sunday so I get something. Like
100%, man. Well, one of us is gonna be switching to a Legends team after this week. Let's just say that we'll be going back. But Kov, man, I've had an absolute blast running through all these games with you and just chatting even before in Discord. But you're a legend in this stream, man. You're always welcome here. I hope if you ever need anything, man, I'm always down to collaborate. But Kov, you're a class act, man, and
I appreciate it, man. You are too, bro. I always love coming on, man. Because like I said, even before we went live or whatever, it's cool to look at you not so much as seeing your name in chat.
For sure,
it's just cool to have genuine connections because give you that real feel, that real like vibe of like just actually communicating with someone that in a sense I have never met. You know what I mean? So it's always fun, man. I'm hoping if we I feel like you got a second sense for this podcast and YouTube stuff. So I hope it keeps going crazy for you, man, because you do an amazing job. I have an absolute blast. Like all day at work today, I was looking forward to I was going through each game in my head and like what where I stand and everything, and then talking about our game and just genuinely just catching up with you, man, because I know we both got busy schedules and we're both still trying to balance everything in life. Like you're about to be a dad and everything, so I know you got stuff going on. So just finding time for this, man, means a lot to me. I really do appreciate it. It helps both of our our streams and for people to get to know us more outside of just just this Madden streamer that likes to drink beer.
Hey, not that there's anything wrong with that. Chat. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Oh